Quit at 9:40 and the cameras opened their eyes. All 14 of them, town-wide, wet lenses drying in their little steel hoods. They'd been blind for 3 days. He'd been quiet for 3 days. I was stranded at the marina with a storm that had died 4 hours early and 1,900 miles away. I thought a phone was lying face up on a nightstand, waiting to tell him where I was. 6 miles home and no cover left in the sky. 2 cameras by the shore road, 4 by cannery. My hands picked the shore road before I finished the math. The wipers dragged on dry glass, and I shut them off. And that sound, rubber stuttering across a windshield, with nothing left to clear, still puts my stomach on the floor. Wet roads whisper, dry roads tell. Past the boat ramp, I could feel the difference through the wheel. The grain of bare asphalt, no film of water floating under the tires. Camera 1 hangs by the Oyster Co-op, and I watched its little solar wing slide past my window and thought, there, logged. Now he knows the town again. Now he knows the hour. There were headlights behind me before the second camera, high ones, truck height, keeping pace, not closing. The way you follow someone when the following is the message. I made the bend by the storage units. The camera read me. The truck let one block open up, then took the bend too, and its beams filled my mirror and stayed. Then a drop hid my windshield, fat as a moth. 12 weeks earlier, a woman at the town hall records counter slid a stack of paper across to me and asked in a voice with no color in it at all whether I knew anyone in Nebraska. Alder Bay runs 11 blocks along the water and 4 blocks up the hill, and it rains there 190 days a year. I moved there for the rain, the way other people move for schools. A counselor named Pat told me once that the 2 things that keep a woman like me alive are distance and pattern breaking. She never mentioned weather. I found that part myself. I got there the last week of September, the upstairs of a house on Delft Street. A widow landlady who didn't ask questions. Morning books at the marina. A gray Corolla with 148,000 miles on it, registered to an LLC, a lawyer in Spokane, built for exactly this reason. You are boring now, I told myself every morning. Nobody looks twice at boring. For 12 days, it worked the way Pat drew it up. Rain on the tin roof, rain on the rhododendrons, rain hitting the bay flat like applause that never ends. I slept better than I had in 2 years. Then, in the second week of October, the town council took a vote, 4-1, and a contractor spent 2 days planting black poles at every road in and out of Alder Bay, and at the fuel dock, and by the school. Solar panel on top like a raised wing, a small camera underneath, aimed at the lane. The paper called it a safety network. The company is called Flock, and the cameras read license plates. Every plate, every pass, stamped with time and place, kept for 30 days, searchable, not just by our chief and his 3 officers. I read that sentence in the council minutes 4 times, standing in the library with my coat dripping on the carpet, Agencies across the country can request access to the network. Thousands of departments. One search bar. The councilwoman who voted no said something at that meeting that didn't make the paper. The woman at the records counter told me later. She said, "You're not installing 14 cameras. You're installing one camera with 14 eyes, and you don't know whose head it's in." I want to be fair, because fair is what keeps this from being a campfire story. The cameras did what they were sold to do. They found a stolen boat trailer in November. They found a missing man from Queets before the river did. The town got what it paid for. So did I. I stopped sleeping the night the polls went up, before I could have told you why. My body did the math ahead of me. It had been ahead of me once before, the last January of my marriage, and I'd promised it I would never make it repeat itself. Dana Okafor runs the records counter at Town Hall, and her window looks at the poll by the school. She's the one who processes the network's paperwork for the town, the invoices, the policy, and the thing I didn't know existed, the audit log. Every search anyone runs on an Alder Bay camera leaves a line. Who searched, from what agency, for what plate, and the reason they typed in the little box. The last Friday of October, she watched me walk in to pay a water bill, and instead of my change, she slid a printout across the counter, 9 pages, and turned it to face me. My plate was highlighted on every page, 214 times. Searched 214 times in 19 days. From a sheriff's department in Nebraska, 1,900 miles away, by one user, ID. The reason field said the same thing on every line. Investigation. Dana asked whether I knew anyone in Nebraska. There was a kindness to how flat she kept her voice. Like a nurse telling you the size of a thing they found on a scan. I remember the counter had one of those chained pens, and I remember I picked it up and put it down 3 times. And I remember the rain running down her window behind the wire glass, cutting the pole by the school into wet ribbons. I said, "My ex-husband is a deputy in Nebraska." Cole ran plates the whole time I knew him. I had never told anyone that before Dana, because on its own, it sounds harmless. When we were dating, if a car sat too long on our street, he'd walk past it with his phone low against his thigh. And by dinner, he'd know the name on the registration and say it out loud, casual, like weather. A coworker gave me a ride home once, my 3rd year married, and Cole never raised his voice about it. He just said the man's full legal name at breakfast, and his address, and the year of his Camry, and then asked me to pass the salt. I understood the sentence under the sentence. I always understood it. Everyone you know is a plate, and every plate is a leash, and all of them lead back to my hand. She said, first search in the log is October 11th. The cameras went live on October 10th. He found the town in 1 day. I had been invisible for 13 months, and the net went up, and he found the town in 1 day. Later, I worked out how, and it's stupid. It's so stupid. New state, new plates, but the LLC renewed the registration in fall, and a data broker sells new registration lists, and he'd bought a subscription like you'd buy socks. He had my plate 6 days before Alder-based cameras could tell him where that plate slept. October 11th, the network's second morning. He typed it into the search bar, the way you'd knock on a door you already knew was answered. I learned what a search returns at a records counter with my water bill still in my hand, and I need you to hear it plain. Every camera my car passed in the last 30 days, time-stamped, mapped. My apartment is 2 blocks from a pole. My work is 1 block from another. The school camera catches me when I drive the widow to church. He was 1,900 miles away, and he had my mornings, my Sundays, my grocery night, my gas habit. A man who once drove 4 hours because I didn't answer a text now knew my week better than my sister does. I stayed, and the reason belongs on the record because it isn't brave. I was tired. There are only so many towns, and only so many versions of you are boring now. And something in me went cold and quiet instead and started reading. The audit log became a routine. Dana would pull the month, highlight my plate, and set it under my water bill like a receipt. Neither of us called it what it was. The town's lawyer would have had opinions. I'd take it home, spread it on the kitchen table under the ceiling light, and study him. The searches came at 6 in the morning and 11 at night. His shift bookends. They spiked on weekends. They spiked to 9 in one day the week my LLC's address bounced. But the log had another column, and that column saved my life. The red log, not who searched, but what the cameras actually saw. Dana pulled that too, once, so I could see myself the way he saw me. And there were holes in me. November 2nd, my drive to work. No red at the co-op pole. November 5th, both directions, gone. November 9th, the school camera logged a plate that was mine with 1 letter wrong. A ghost car that doesn't exist, flagged low confidence. I checked the dates against the only calendar that matters in Alder Bay. Storms. Every hole in me was a storm. The second was the atmospheric river that flooded the co-op lot. The 5th, sideways rain all day off the bay. The 9th, hard squalls. A camera reads a plate with light. Give it a lane full of falling water and spray riding off my tires like smoke, and a lens wearing its own wet skin, and the machine starts guessing, and its guesses go in the record, wearing a warning label, or don't go in at all. I sat with that page until 2 in the morning, and the rain kept on against the window, and somewhere in there, the sound of it changed for me. It's never changed back. Everyone else in that town heard weather. I heard a hole in a net. He could search all night from his nightstand in Nebraska. On a storm day, there was nothing of me to find. The town had built him 14 eyes. God, or the Pacific, or whatever it is that stacks the clouds against that coast, 190 days a year, kept putting thumbs in them. I tested it because trust is a thing I don't do anymore, even with the sky. Big front on a Tuesday. I drove a loop past 4 poles at the worst of it, wipers losing, and Dana pulled the log Thursday. 1 low confidence misread 2 towns over, credited to a Buick. 3 of the poles never saw me at all. On the clear Friday, I drove the same loop and lit up all 4 on on time, in order, like a debt clearing. So that was the shape of my life by the middle of November. He had a search bar, I had the radar. You want to know what it does to a person holding a fact like that? It organizes you. It replaces you a little at a time, like sand replacing bone in a fossil, until the shape's still yours, but the material is all vigilance. I stopped using a weather app like a person deciding on a coat. I read the NOAA forecast discussion at 4 a.m. like scripture, the actual text the forecasters write, because the app rounds the truth off and I needed the raw grain of it. Onshore flow, frontal passage timed for 1800, Pineapple Express, aimed at the 48th parallel. I learned the difference between rain that fills a lens and rain that just films it. I learned that the first 20 minutes of a hard front are the blindest, before the crews ever think about the cameras, and that a night squall is worth 2 storms in daylight, because glare helps drown the plate. Groceries happened in downpours. Gas happened in downpours. I hauled the widow's trash cans up her driveway in weather that took the lids off, and she watched from the porch and said I was a strange girl, and there was real warmth in it, and I carried that around for a week like a hand warmer. Dry days, the car sat. I walked to the marina with my hood up through the drizzle that doesn't count, the kind that can't blind anything. And the poles watched the streets and saw no plate of mine, because you can't read what doesn't drive. My odometer barely moved that winter. My boots died in February, and the log kept coming under the water bill, month after month, and I watched him lose his mind in a column of timestamps. Through November, 3 searches a day. In December, 5, then 8, then a night where he ran my plate 26 times between midnight and 4 a.m. 26 identical searches, 8 minutes apart, which is not investigation, which is a man refreshing a page. The holes were reaching Nebraska. He could see the reeds thin out and go ragged, see me flicker in his net like a bulb going, and he did exactly what 2 years of marriage taught me he does when a thing he's holding starts to slip. He gripped. Then, in the middle of December, the gap started closing, and the gap was the thing I'd never thought to fear. The search used to trail my drives by hours. I'd pass the school pole on a Sunday morning, and his query would land that night, 6, 8, 11 hours on. Him sitting down after a shift to collect me like mail. The second Sunday of December was dry and hard frozen, no cover anywhere in the forecast, and the widow doesn't miss church for anybody, so I drove her, and the pole read me at 9:54 a.m. Dana's next printout put his search at 9:57, 3 minutes. On a Sunday at 10:57 his time, a grown man at a kitchen table 1,900 miles away, with the page already open, refreshing. He wasn't looking me up anymore. He was waiting for me to happen. Sand through a glass, finally down to its last hour. And 3 minutes is not a schedule. 3 minutes is a hand hovering over a doorknob. And I started planning my Sundays around the radar, the way I'd once planned dinners around his moods, which is a sentence I heard myself think and then had to go sit down. The reason field changed in January. It had said investigation since the day the network went live. On January 9th, it said, and I am quoting a law enforcement database, come on now. 3 searches later, it said, where? Dana read that one over my shoulder at the counter, and I heard her stop chewing her gum. She said, honey, that's not a reason, that's a message. He knows other eyes see this log. She was right, and she was wrong. It was a message, but he'd stopped caring who read it. And men like Cole only stop caring about witnesses at one point on the road, when they've already decided, and the deciding has made them calm, and the calm feels to them like being right. The ridge showed up in the discussion text on a Sunday in the 3rd week of January. High pressure building offshore. I read the sentence and went and stood at the window over the bay, and the clouds out there were already going high and thin, mother of pearl, beautiful. And I looked at that beautiful sky like you'd look at a knife on a stranger's belt. 6 days dry, maybe 7, cold and still, glass clear, the kind of stretch that makes that coast fall in love with itself in the middle of winter. 14 eyes open all week. I did the math I'd gotten good at. Food, fine, I could walk. Work, fine. But my refill was at the pharmacy in Hoquiam, 22 miles and 5 cameras away. Non-negotiable. Time to run out on day 4 of the ridge, because that's how it goes. I moved the pickup as early as they'd let me. Day 2, mid-morning, when the low sun sits in every southbound lens on the shore road. Glare's no storm. It was what the sky was selling. The drive out was nothing. 5 reads, 5 debts. I was in and out of the pharmacy in 11 minutes, and in the lot, 3 rows back, sat a silver truck with its engine running, exhaust standing straight up in the cold air, Nebraska Plates on the front bumper. I got in my car with my whole skin ringing and did what Pat taught me. Don't go home, go public, and drove to the Safeway lot, parked by the doors, and watched the mirror. The truck idled in and took a row far back, patient as furniture. Whoever was inside never got out. Tinted glass and winter light. I sat there for 40 minutes rehearsing the phone call. Officer, a truck is parked near me. No, it hasn't done anything. And hearing how it sounded. Then it pulled out, no hurry, and was gone toward the highway. I memorized that plate before it left the lot, and I'm not sorry. And when Dana pulled the log 2 days later, I asked her to run the read history. Not a search on him, just the town's own cameras, the last 30 days, our little local record of who passes through Alder Bay. The silver truck first hit an Alder Bay pole on January 19th. The night the storm died, 4 hours early. I read that line and the marina lot came back to me whole, the wipers stuttering on dry glass. The high beams that took the bend behind me and stayed, and understood that while I'd driven home telling myself the danger was a phone on a nightstand in Nebraska, it had been 1 block back, pacing me. It had come through 7 times since, fuel dock twice, the bend by the storage units 4 times, the school pole once at 3:12 p.m., which is when the school lets out, and there is no reason on this earth for that truck and that hour and that street, except that my landlady's church, my Sunday drive, sits 1 block past the school, and he had my Sundays. The net read him too. He'd driven 1,900 miles into the one town in America where I could watch him back, and the cameras didn't care whose side anyone was on. They wrote him down the way they wrote me down. Time, place, direction of travel. He was a line in the record now, and the record doesn't grip or rage or refresh a page at 3 a.m. It accumulates. Patient, the way water is patient. Dana took the read history to Chief Wire that same afternoon, and I sat in his office with my hands around a coffee I never drank and told him 2 years of things in 20 minutes, in the order Pat taught me. Dates first, feelings never. He listened like a man doing arithmetic. Then he picked up the phone, and the first call was to Nebraska, to Cole's sheriff. And the second call was to Flock, because it turns out there's a thing the company will pull when a department asks the right question: the audit trail. All of it. Every search Cole had run on me since October 11th, 6 states away, on a woman with a protective order in the file and no case number anywhere near his desk. 694 searches. The number has never once sounded real to me, and I'm the one it was pointed at. His department opened an internal investigation that Thursday. They pulled his database access Friday morning. I know the hour because I've read the suspension letter, and because Friday at 6:11 a.m. Nebraska time, 11 minutes after his credentials died, the last line he ever left in the audit log was a search that came back access denied. And the ridge held, clear, cold, gorgeous, and the silver truck was still in my town. And now it was owned by a man who just lost his search bar, and his badge was next, and he knew it, and the calm was over. The forecast discussion that Saturday morning used a phrase I'd been waiting 6 days to read. Ridge breaks down tonight. Strong frontal passage after 2100. Heavy rain, wind south 40, gusting 60. I called Wire myself that morning and read him the discussion line by line, like scripture returned. If Cole moved, he'd move under the front, inside the first hour of blindness, because I knew the hour I would have picked. I asked for the officer at the top of Delft before dark. Engine off, lights off. All winter, the rain had been my cover. Tonight, I was lending it out. All day, the town got that hush it gets ahead of weather. Gulls sitting in rows on the breakwater facing the same direction. The bay gone the color of an old nickel. I worked my shift. I walked home. The truck read at the fuel dock pole at 4:40 p.m. And none of us said the word we were all holding, which was tonight. Because if you were him, with the net coming back online blind, with little left to lose that wasn't already in a letter, tonight was the last night the eyes would be shut for him and for me. The rain came at 9:20, 40 minutes early, all at once. A roof of it, the power flickered at 9:47 and stood back up. My phone was in my hand when the widow's motion light came on under my window, and the light was full of rain falling sideways, and something had crossed her yard. I did not open the door to see. I want that understood, that I have stopped being a person who checks. I killed my lamp, sat on the floor of the hallway with my back on the studs, and my phone lit in my lap, and I listened to the storm handle the house. Gutters giving up, the rhododendrons hissing. Twice under the weather, a sound with weight to it on the porch stairs, there and gone. The way a step sounds when someone's decided slow is quieter than soft. Sitting on that hallway floor, I finally let the last January in. The one from the marriage, the one my body had been doing math about since the polls went up. He'd taken my keys that winter, mine, off the hook, because of ice, he said. Roads like that, you'll kill yourself. And for 11 days, I didn't leave the house without him. And the whole time, he was so warm about it, so reasonable. And I have never in my life been so purely afraid. The rain on the widow's roof drummed on, and it came to me, sitting under it in the dark with my knees against my chest, that the sound I'd been calling cover all winter was the exact opposite of that locked, quiet, careful house, loud and falling on everybody the same. The next set of lights in that yard was blue and red, smeared all over the rain on the glass. Wire's officer had been parked at the top of Delft, engine off, since before the front came in. My weather, her trap. What she saw, it's in her report, is a man in a rain shell coming over the fence into the yard. And what mattered in the end wasn't her spotlight or her voice on the loudspeaker. It's that he ran for the truck. He got out of town ahead of her on the shore road, doing 70 in water you shouldn't do 40 in, hit the bend by the storage units, and the truck hydroplaned, spun a full circle, and put itself backward into the ditch below the camera pole and stopped. She walked up on him with her flashlight through a foot of falling water while he revved the truck's wheels against mud. The pole above them read his plate as she cuffed him. Low confidence. The rain nearly saved him too. The rain doesn't take sides. I'd forgotten that all winter, and it took the sound of it hammering the roof of a police cruiser with him inside to teach me. The net has holes, and the holes are for everyone. There's an ending on paper. Cole took a plea in Nebraska for official misconduct and computer crimes. The same summer in Florida, a police officer was arrested after his department's audit log showed 717 searches on his own estranged wife's car. You may have read about him. Cole's number was 694. The trespass and stalking counts here are still working through the county. His career is over. My protective order got teeth put back in it. The council amended the camera policy in March. Audit reviews quarterly. Out-of-state searches flagged to the chief. The system that hunted me is the paper trail that convicted him. Both of those things are true, and I've stopped needing them to be only one. I sold the Corolla in April anyway. Watched the auction lot load it on a flatbed in the rain. That plate going away flat against the stack, and I stood there in weather with my hood down until my hair stuck to my face. The widow thinks I'm strange. She's right, and she renews my lease anyway. Alder Bay's network has a public page now, part of the March policy. Anyone can see it. Cameras, reads per day, searches, a little the civic dashboard, the town's way of saying nothing to hide. I look at it more than I should. Call it keeping my hand on a scar. In June, 9 weeks after my old plate left town on a flatbed, and 5 weeks after the state confirmed it was destroyed, the dashboard logged a low confident read on the shore road pole. Camera 6, 3:19 in the morning, in the kind of hammering rain that blinds that lens, which is the only reason anyone could ever tell me it was a misread. One letter wrong, a plate that no longer exists. Northbound toward Delft Street. It's happened 4 more times since. Only ever camera 6. Only ever rain. Only ever the drowned hours. 3-something when the storm is loudest and the machine is guessing. The town says a misread is just a misread. The company would say the same. And on 189 of the 190 days, I'd agree with them both. But I drove that road all winter, in exactly that weather, at exactly those hours, learning to be unreadable. And I think the net learned something too. I think somewhere in that lens, there's a shape it keeps trying to finish. A gray car in hard rain, with a woman inside holding the wheel like scripture. And on the loud nights, it finishes her and writes her down, and she drives north, and she gets home. I hope she gets home. The cameras are real. The company is called Flock. Its network reads roughly 20 billion plates a month across more than 6,000 American communities, and every search leaves a line in an audit log that almost no one ever reads. In August of 2026, a Florida police officer was arrested after that log showed he had searched his own estranged wife's car 717 times. The log was there the whole time. So was the rain. Check the weather tonight. Count the cameras between you and home. One of those numbers is going to matter to somebody, and they won't know which one until it's loud. Subscribe to descend deeper. This is Urban Dread. The city never sleeps, and neither should you.